So, you guys are here because you want to change for the better. And it starts with what you think about. Okay, that's right, Jeff. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, he says that thoughts lead to choices, which lead to actions or behaviors, which then create experiences. And these experiences produce emotions, which then affect our thoughts again. So a person, he says, has 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts in one day, and 90% are the same thoughts as the day before. Same thoughts always lead to same choices. Same choices always lead to the same behaviors, and the same behaviors will create the same experiences. Same experiences produce the same emotions, which then leads to your thoughts. So we want to meditate on new words to have new thoughts. We are studying this book called Aspire, Discovering Your Purpose Through the Power of Words by Kevin Hall. This book contains 11 words, and Kevin Hall shows us how these words will become what he calls touchstones in personal development and in business. And he will show you how you can use these words as building blocks for success and inner peace. So today's word is a word, your very familiar word. It is the word coach. In old Hungary, there was a village named Koch. Okay, it's spelled K-O-C-S. K-O-C-S. It's pronounced Koch. This village produced the finest horse-drawn carriages meant to carry royalty comfortably over the bumpy river road that connected Budapest and Vienna. These carriages borrowed their name from the town where they were made and came to be known as coaches. Today, a coach remains something or someone who carries a valued person from where they are to where they want to be. Now, there are many ideas and approaches to coaching. My own personal practice of coaching is one approach. Today, I'm going to share how Kevin Hall sees coaching. So I'm going to repeat what he has written in his book, Aspire. Now, although it's not exactly the same as how I approach coaching, personally, when I read it, he offers me a point of view that sharpens my own coaching approach. And it will certainly help me to become a more all-rounded human being and leader. So he talks about the value of coaching. Coaching helps keep us on path and purpose. In sports, having a coach is the first step to improve performance. As an avid cyclist himself, Kevin Hall used the example of Lance Armstrong, who had won 7 Tour de France races. Now, Lance Armstrong had multiple coaches to improve in almost every aspect of his sport. He had experts in nutrition, experts in bike design, clothing design, physical efficiency. And during a race, he maintained constant radio contact with his coaches so that they could advise him during the race. Now, unfortunately, on hindsight, when we look back, we realize he didn't have a life coach or a spiritual coach. And, he was eventually banned from the sport for having taken drugs from the very, very start. And at the time of writing this book, Kevin Hall, when he was writing this book, Lance Armstrong hadn't been disgraced yet, which is why he mentioned Lance Armstrong. Okay. Then Kevin Hall talks about having a coach for all reasons. He mentioned Harvey Mackay, the businessman and best-selling author and internationally known speaker. He has a coach for almost every area of his life. He has more than a dozen personal coaches, a speaking coach, a writing coach, a financial coach, a tennis coach, a golf coach, a running coach, and of course, a life coach. Why? Because coaches have enriched all the areas of his life that are meaningful to him. The other thing about coaching or coaches is they see potential. Kevin Hall sees coaches as teachers. Now, to teach means to show. Teachers don't just tell, they illustrate, they model, they show. Hui Xuan, for example, talks so much about the teacher's in the past, and you all have teachers who have made a lasting impact decades after you have left school. Kevin shares about Marva Collins, who is considered one of the world's greatest teachers. She started teaching in an impoverished neighborhood in Chicago. She worked with students labeled learning disabled, who were failing, who were considered unteachable and uncoachable. But she would not accept social stereotypes. Okay? She believed that there is a brilliant child inside every student. There's a brilliant child inside every student. And graduates of her first neighborhood school were accepted at Harvard, Princeton, Columbia, Oxford, Yale, and Stanford. She said, I have discovered few learning disabled students in my 3 decades of teaching. I have, however, discovered many victims of teaching inabilities. She believed that a good teacher should make a poor student good and a good student superior. When our students fail, we as teachers have failed. And as I read that, I'm reminded of this is such a powerful leadership principle about taking responsibility. So, to learn from Marva Collins, focus on identifying and magnifying each student's unique gifts. Another thing that Kevin shared is about reaching out to everyone. Okay, reaching out to everyone. So, Kevin Hall shares a story of his son's soccer coach in one of the top schools that produce outstanding soccer players. That team won the league championship that year. Now, that year there was a disabled boy named Sean on the field, and he was there every training session and at the matches. And Coach Scaff did not lose sight of his responsibilities to the school and the other players to field a competitive team. That's why they won. But he also did not lose sight of his responsibility to be compassionate and inclusive. By his actions, Coach Scaff taught his players about being accepting and encouraging, and it made them a more grateful and cohesive team. What Coach Scaff did was he showed them that it had as much to do with what Sean could bring to the team as what the team could bring to Sean. He taught them win-win, which is a very important life principle. Kevin Hall also made the point that validation is power. Validation is power. He shares about Meg Whitman, who took over a small internet business and then turned it into the multi-billion-dollar company called eBay. Meg Whitman's favorite word is validation. Now, the word validate comes from Latin valere, which means to be strong. When you are validated, you are given strength, power, and authority. So effective coaching emphasizes strengths and abilities, not weakness and disabilities. That's what we learned what a teacher does, isn't it? Focusing on strengths. A teacher must also learn to follow. Okay, a leader must also learn to follow. At its core, Kevin Hall says coaching is reciprocal. Coaching is reciprocal. Astute coaches, they learn from those they are coaching. Let me share a very recent example that just happened yesterday. Gary had decided not to do his Sunday night 9 p.m. broadcast because he was unwell. At 7 p.m. last night, I suggested that Amy come on and share her own reset product testimonial instead. She replied yes and went on to share for not just 5 minutes but 15 minutes. Do you see what happened here? First, although I'm not her coach, I'm a coach by being. Okay, I'm not just a coach by doing. If this would be a case if I was a hired coach, it would be by doing. But I'm a coach by being. And I saw this as an opportunity for Gary and Amy to continue contributing and to show up as leaders. Secondly, Amy, my upline, actually my coach in the business, was open to listen to feedback. In other words, to be coached herself. Kevin Hall gives an example of John Luther, who at that time was chairman of the multi-billion-dollar conglomerate Dunkin' Brands. In his first job as a 24-year-old fresh from Princeton, he was absolutely lost as a new manager running a food operation. There was this older woman, Sarah, who was the line cook, and she said to him, "Kid, you don't know what's going on, do you? Come on, I'll show you the way." She became his mentor, he says. She saved him. I remember as a freshly commissioned young platoon commander in national service, leading a bunch of street smart Hokkien Peng, I was so glad to have a seasoned, regular platoon sergeant to mentor me from behind. I needed to know that there were things I didn't know, lots of things I didn't know. And so you remember the word humility that we had learned earlier. Okay, willing to learn. And that's where a coach comes in. When a student is hungry to learn, the coach appears. Okay, this is a good place to end. And Kevin always ends with his personal application, of that chapter. And one trend in Kevin Hall's writing is the focus on personal development and personal leadership. It really is about contributing to the world, but always first looking inward as being the source of that outward influence. He says, when I teach a skill, I learn it twice myself. Remember the Asian expression, he makes things easier for himself who makes things easier for others. He makes things easier for himself who makes things easier for others. The fulfillment I get from contributing to the success of others requires me to acquire skills and develop talents. So I stretch, I grow, and I live. Kevin says, I can't carry others to their desired destination without getting closer to my own. I can't carry others to their desired destination without getting closer to my own. And that really is the essence of the business that we're in, when we succeed, when we help other people succeed. So coaching too is a win-win game to make our world a better place. Okay, that's all I have to share on this much used word, coach.